My child arrived just the other day. She came into the world in the usual way, but there was gay ops to run and slurs to say. She learned to walk while I was away, and she was talking before I knew it. And as she grew, she said, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And I'm streaming pedo on Discord and calling them true. Kiwi Farms drama and Josh will call the moon. When you logging off, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. Yeah, you know we'll have a good time then. My daughter turned 10 just the other day. She said thanks for the doll, Dad, come on, let's play. I'm sorry, baby, Daddy's doing his thing today. I have to call this guy a pedo. She said that's okay. So I brought her on my stream and her smile to dim. I said, why don't you say hi to him? Yeah, why don't you say hi to him? And I'm screaming pedo on Discord and calling them true. Kiwi Farms drama and Josh will come move. When you're logging off, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. Yeah, you know we'll have a good time then. She came home from college just the other day. So much like a woman, I just had to say, daughter, I'm proud of you, care to sit on down? She shook her head and said with a frown, what I really like, Dad, is to know why you stream. Me to those creeps, can you tell me please? And I'm screaming pedo on Discord and calling them true. Kiwi Farms drama and Josh will come moon. When you're logging off, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. Yeah, you know we'll have a good time then. Long since retired, my wife's moved away. Called my daughter up just the other day. Said I'd like to see you if you don't mind. She said I think you're a creep and a pedophile. You see, you would put me on these calls and streams with you when all I wanted was to play normally. I'm just asking questions, you see. As I hung up the phone, it occurred to me she'd grown up hating me. My girl was just like me. And I'm screaming pedo on Discord and calling them true. Kiwi Farms drama and Josh will come move. When you're logging off, girl, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You'll know we'll have a good time then.
We're gay, fucking retarded pedophiles. We are awesome.
Our little hostess, not having fun. Should have kept his bratwurst safe in the bun. Shouldn't be shooting off bursts with Brian Dunn, cause now they'll haul him off for hey, la prison. Hey, la prison. Hey, la prison. Hey, la prison. Hausmeisters in A-La prison, locked up with poor Brian Dunn. Hausmeister, what have you done? Now you're locked up in A-La prison.
I like my women. I like my women. I like my women like shots of tequila, a worm already in them. You can call me Jay Caesar.
I like my women like shots of tequila, worm already in them, a bottle of Thuraya.
I like my women like shots of tequila, a worm already in them. Cheap at the cantina. Hey!
I like women like I like shots of tequila, a worm already in them. I've only had a Nisa.
I like my women. I like my women, 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 women. I like my women like shots of tequila, a worm already in them, spiked with Everclear.
I like my women like shots of tequila, a worm already in them, chased with diarrhea.
Shots of tequila, worm already in them, or dosed with anesthesia.
I like my women like shots of tequila, a worm already in them, a taste of Merida.
I like my women like shots of tequila, worm already in them, a pill for gonorrhea. I like the women like the shots of tequila, but the worms already in them.
When I was a kid, when I was around, I think I was 6 or 7 years old, it must have been first grade, I used to hang around this real piece of shit. And he was, I think calling him a bully would have been too much of a compliment. Because what this guy would do is he'd roll around with a bunch of guys around him. You know, guys obviously were like 7 years old. And he would specifically pick out people who he thought were weak. And he'd mess with them and, you know, not beat them up, but shove them around or whatever. And I never participated in that, but I was, you know, I considered him my friend. I was around him while it was happening. And one day I got in trouble. I didn't touch anyone. I didn't say anything mean to anyone. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't shoving anyone around or anything, but I got pulled into it because I was standing next to this fucker. And I was so pissed because I was like, what the fuck? I didn't do anything wrong. This guy's publicly my friend, but like I didn't do anything, right? And when I got home, my dad called me into his office and he sat me down and he had a little talk with me. And he explained to me that you will be judged by the company that you keep. And that's just the way the world works. And you know what I told him? I said, you know what, Dad? That's not fair. And he said, life isn't fair. And one thing that really boiled this into my head later was this was in high school. Do dads really have off? My dad did. He had a personal office at our house. Is that later in high school, I had a friend not really a friend. This was a guy that I did know to keep a bit of arm's length from. But there was a group of guys, and what they would do is they'd go into, Ralph's, the grocery store, whatever, and then they would steal liquor and then walk out with it. Because 9 times out of 10, nothing happens, right? And he walks, at one point, this guy who I kind of, I wouldn't call him my friend, but like I knew of him, like I talked to him sometimes. He went in to the supermarket with these guys one time. And they told him they weren't doing anything. They were just there to like pick something up. I don't know, some snacks or something. And when they walk out, they get stopped by security, right? And it turns out that 2 of them had stolen liquor, a bottle of wine and a bottle of vodka. And they all got sent into the security room in the back, and they all had to wait for the police to get there. Even the guy who didn't do anything, who was just with them. And, when he got all mad about this, I didn't point this out, but I saw my friend point this out to him at like a social event later. Said, well, we told you that that's what these guys do. That they do this shit. And they'll victimize, and they don't care who they victimize all around them. And, that was another point where I really started to boil into me what kind of my dad was trying to teach me before. And so we're going to talk about 3 categories here with all this Arde stuff, because I don't think everybody is equally to blame. I actually don't think, I know people are not going to like this. I'm going to say this at the outset. I actually don't even think a majority of these, pretty much any of these people, not any, but like 9 out of 10 of them are, sexually attracted to children. We'll be very clear about that. But the 3 categories we're going to go through are the people who were grossly negligent in a way that eventually led to the victimization of a child, the people who ought to have known better, and then a specific person who did know better and continued. And I actually don't think this is going to be too long of a stream, because I'm not going to recover a lot of the stuff other people have. I'm not going to go over all the Shaggy streams. I'm not going to go over all the Shaggy DMs and stuff, or even a lot of the KOP stuff. Brian will be part of this, but I'll get into it. But I'm going to try to weave a narrative here, because I think that there's a particular figure in all of this who is really the worst figure, who I won't say has gone without any blame, but has not been the focus. And the reason why they haven't been the focus is because 2 of the other people are so stupid and so loud and so just easy to laugh at that they've been the primary content. And I get it. When you got guys like Mr. Medicare and they make the whole stream about Brian, of course he does, because he has a personal beef with Brian. And also Brian looks like a retard. He's threatening to punch a kid and all this stuff. Where you see people... Shaggy mostly went over the Shaggy, or sorry, not Shaggy, Surfer mostly went over the Shaggy stuff. Totally get it. And to be clear, Shaggy is in the character category of ought to know better. But like I said, I think that because those people are so loud and so uniquely stupid, they have been getting a lot of the airtime. And to be clear, like I said, I don't think this is going to be a super long stream, even if the preparation had to be. Because we have everything. We have all the logs. We have all of it. And I've gone through it. And I've gone over the interview with the victim. I wouldn't even call it an interview. It was I don't even know the right term for it. Exploitation, right? By the Norwegian. We've got KOP's timeline. Speaking of which, we're going to pull that up here. Because I've tried to compare all the timelines here. And I just, to reiterate kind of the thesis I'm trying to make here, is there is a figure I feel like has not been covered very much, who is the worst person here. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why and how. So, let's start with the timelines. Not the outlines, the timelines. So, according to the victim during the interview with the Norwegian, she entered this internet Discord shit 3 years ago. She said she was about to turn 13, and now she's about to turn 16, so 3 years ago. And allegedly was immediately sniffed out by the Marty community and kicked out.
At which point, and she joined the quote Kitty Styles community. Okay, and this is her timeline. This is Brian's timeline. That's why it's in pink. And so she says here. She says it wasn't. Hold on, let me pull it up because I'm not gonna play her voice. I'm just gonna read the transcript. These people, referring to the Marty community, sniffed me out pretty quickly. In a few months, they're like, "This is obviously a child. You're talking to a child." And then she says something interesting. She says, "And then Weezus came in, snatched me up. My white knight, my orange cat, my savior, said, 'Oh, no, this is not a child. He still doesn't believe me. I'm a child.' Oh yeah, my little Weezus prince came up, swooped me up into Swede and Motorboat's arms." And the reason why I think this detail is important is because Shaggy is the worst. No, he's not. He is the second worst. So it's really not that bad. It's really not any better, but it is bad. So the reason I'm reading the Weezus stuff, the Weezus claim here, is specifically because it's going to contradict a lot of the messages and Brian's own timeline. And it's telling. It's telling. So guys, stick with me here. Why would she say that she went from the Marty community and then got saved by, quote, Weezus and the Plate guys, or not saved, but pulled out of it into something else? That timeline misses a middle period here that Brian illustrates and that is supported by the messages, which is that actually after Marty, she went to Kitty Styles community, this potato server, which is what Brian talks about. And then in that server, a user called Port Monkey, who somehow no one has talked about in all this, despite being a very important figure to this whole timeline, she became friends with. In fact, this Port Monkey character is the first person to have messaged in her private server in February. Now, what could be the motive there? What could be the motive to, because let's be real, her portraying this as Weezus and the Plate Gang guys, of pulling her out of Marty's server after being supposedly exposed for being underage and immediately into theirs, what impression does that give you? It gives you the impression that the Weezus and these Plate Gang guys were essentially like trafficking her, right? In some way. But that doesn't line up with the timeline. And it doesn't line up with Brian's timeline, the part of it that is actually supported. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Who could possibly have a motive for wanting Weezus to look bad? Right? Like really bad. Because here's the other thing. I came in here very ready to not like, to kind of, not pin, but like, I came in here hypothesizing that these Plate Gang guys were really, really, really bad in all of this. But from the DM she's posted that we have, she didn't really have anything explicit with Weezus or Ovo that I can see. Now, there could be alts, there could be all sorts of shit, I don't know. But I don't see that. And in fact, they seem mostly friendly. At least up until the end. So, like I said, we're going to try to look whose motives past a certain point in this timeline could possibly make this all fit together. Right? So, we're going to go through this part of it, which is just some of the Shaggy parts, because there's just to disabuse some of the lies that Shaggy told. Number one, Shaggy's first message in her private server was in February of 2026. So this whole idea that he was only talking to her for a month or two is wrong. He tries to say that his first DM with her was April, but if you actually look at his first DM with her, it very clearly indicates that they had been speaking beforehand. Let me pull that up. I gotta be careful the way I pull these up because actually I think he showed them in one of these streams. Hold on. Give me a second here. I gotta be careful about this because he's retarded and he like shows everybody's face all the time. Okay, here we go. So here is what he says is the first DMs that are in April 4th. But if you actually look at them, Slow going. That was a very stupid thing to do. Like, are you feeling any better? Why would she ask if he's feeling any better if they had never interacted? And like I said, it's not speculation by me to say that that was the first time they talked. We know that that wasn't the first time they talked, because if you look in the general channel of her server, the first message he sent was actually on February 2nd. So they were talking before then. So victim also claims that on March 3rd, 2025, he sent a message that said basically that she looks the same 14 to 21. This is the one that was in the Norwegian stream. I'll pull it up here right now. This one. Now, to be clear, to give the benefit of the doubt, or not the benefit of the doubt, but to present alternatives, it could have been that he was talking about someone else. It doesn't show, but it would fit the timeline given that he had already been in her server. Also, his profile picture in that screenshot is the same as the one he was using in her server. Okay, so there's some circumstantial evidence. So Shaggy asked the victim for nudes in a public Discord. That was some point here. We don't have a date, but it was between these two. So this is all the Shaggy stuff. And to kind of close on this, because I know you guys have all seen the Shaggy DMs. He looks like a fucking idiot. He showed her his face, or so she showed him her face. He was clearly sexting her. There are video recordings of him basically sexting to her. He received the nudes. Like I said, I put Shaggy in the category of ought to have known. Because he had every single piece of evidence a person would need to absolutely know that this person was under the age of 18. Now, the most charitable thing we can say is that just because he ought to have known does not mean he's attracted to people who look under 18. That is what I would have said until he decided to make, in one of his response streams, a statement where he said that he's actually hired prostitutes that look younger than her. So maybe Shaggy doesn't even realize what he's into, but I don't know. That was kind of a giant nuke. Again, this is Annie Whipped. Yes, I know. This is stuff that's already been covered. But here's kind of where I want to talk about the timeline here. Let's go down one level. If the second worst category is ought to have known, let's go down one level to people who are, less bad, but still kind of have some culpability here, which is, how is Shaggy not the worst? Yeah, I'm going to explain that. Is people who, like I said, through gross negligence led to the victimization of the child. So, timeline here, like I said, February 2025 is the first post by this Port Monkey guy in her server. Brian claims it's after that she meets Weezus the Plate guys, and Brian claims they liked her immediately because she had this server that had records of everybody. That's what he says. Who knows? Brian also claims she was making fake messages talking to herself. I don't think that's true, based off of how the messages look in the record. And claims that she doxes random people, which is true. It's undeniable. If you look through these records, they're just filled with people's faces, personal information, all this crazy shit. Random people who I don't even know why you go to the trouble. So this is true. So his first DM with her was in June of 2025. Brian conflates something. He admits that she was saying she is 20, 21, 22, 23. I'm putting this in the gross negligence category, verging on ought to have known. All these guys have been consistent about this, and there are screenshots of her saying that she was 20. When you have a 3-year age range for a person that you've known for less than a year, that should be a massive red flag. And one of these things that's sort of in the midst of time on this that it's hard to determine is whether the Marty community really did know that she was underage. And the reason why it's a little confusing is because there's a message she sent after this blew up back to the Kitty Styles people, basically saying, hey, sorry about all this, that you guys didn't know I was underage. And it seems kind of incredulous to me that, considering how much overlap there is between the Marty people and the Kitty Styles people. I didn't know who any of these people were before this, by the way. I had to dig through all these fucking messages to figure out who these communities even are or what is going on. And this is why, I waited this long, because I wanted to find out what was really fucking going on here. And anyway, it seems incredulous to me seeing the overlap that if she was known to be underage in one community, she wouldn't have known to be underage in the other, but then why would she apologize for it? So that's a bit of a black box. But the fact is that we do have this first DM from Brian around June. He says that that's when the Persip network was founded. It includes me in that, even though I've had no private interactions with Persip. I've like indirectly talked to him, shitting on him through chat. Otherwise, I didn't talk to anybody before I made my channel. I just made it and started streaming and randomly called into House's show. Obviously, I've been following like drama and stuff before that. I think that much is obvious, but I wasn't part of any network, and I was hostile towards Jub since the very beginning. So anyway, this is when we're going to start getting into kind of where I think the narrative that we can start making some conclusions begins. So, around this point, around summer, around July, and this is supported by Brian's DMs and supported by our own, like what we all saw, what happened with this blow up is around summer that Housemeister starts letting retards into the server. What I mean by retards, I mean specifically Shaggy and the Norwegian. Okay, starts letting them in the summer of 2025. And this fits the timeline of public information perfectly. It was August when the whole blow up, the whole gay retarded pedophiles thing blew up. That's when everyone was telling him he needs to stop like interacting with these people. Now, the logic presented by Housemeister at the time was he was kind of allowing Axel to be in the server occasionally so that he could like basically milk him and own him or whatever. And I think that the lesson by the end of this is going to permanently and forever refute why that is ever a good thing. Even if your motives are supposedly just, why that is ever a good thing. Because essentially what I'm going to contend is that because of this choice right here, to even have Axel around, it directly led to the victimization of this person. Directly. If this had not happened, it is more than likely not that none of this would have happened. Okay? So House starts letting these stupid people into the server. Brian leaves in fall, leaves Housemeister's server in fall of 2025. Now, somehow he's still in contact with her because he claims he was in a public VC with her after, probably another server because he's in all these other servers, right? And his final DMs with her were between November 29th and December 11th, which does fit his claim that he basically cut her off around the new year. Now, here's the problem. I think I understand. I thought that too. KOP flirted with it. I thought that too, but I kind of, by looking at the messages and stuff, I've kind of changed my opinion on that. I will say that the plate guys do fit into that Housemeister category of gross negligence leading to victimization of a child, but I think that the Norwegian is in a uniquely high category here, and I'm going to show you my evidence for why. So like I said, we have like I said, the final DMs that Brian sent were towards the end of the new year, which does support what he said. Now, of course, the problem with Brian is Brian. He's a pathological liar. So he couldn't just either say nothing or be honest when he started coping in Kiwi Farms and tried to say that he had no DMs with her, which was immediately proven wrong. And so then people naturally believe that he was doing bad stuff, because I totally get why people think that it's way worse than what is immediately on paper with him. Because his first statement about it was a direct, provable lie. Okay? It was a direct, provable lie. He said, I have no DMs, here's the proof. And it turns out it was another account. And we've all seen that. That's been established. Shamu's gone over that. Other guys have gone over that. So we're all on the same page about that. But I think that you can start to see some indirect evidence about why this victim starts acting the way they do at a certain point. So what happens? So Shaggy gets the call from the victim's father telling him that she's underage. He makes the announcement. Now, if Shaggy had just done that, had just made his announcement post and then fucked off, he'd still look fucking terrible because all these messages still would have gone out. But he definitely wouldn't have looked as bad as he does now, where his response after that was to A-log the child, showing her face on screen. It was to somehow use the "I like even younger looking hookers" defense. Question mark. What? And all this other shit. But then what happens that same night after the A-logging stream? The Norwegian does an interview with her. And what does she say on that interview? Who does she talk about? Do they really establish a clear timeline? Because I've gone over this interview a lot. Because if you were really to interview someone like this, that is the first thing you'd want to establish. When did you meet any of these people? Who did you meet? All of that. Only the first 15 minutes of this interview are about the timeline. And it's just, I was in the Marty community. They sniffed me out. Then Weezus believed that I was overage and brought me into the sector, which is not what happened. Like I said, from this timeline, we know that there was a middle step here and that Weezus only met, and those guys only met her once she had been smuggled out by this Port Monkey character. Why didn't he come into it? Maybe it's because she's still friendly with this Port Monkey guy. Huh? So then you think, oh, well, maybe she hates Weezus. Well, none of the messages suggest that. They seem to still be friends. But do you know who does hate Weezus and these plate game guys?
Because Ferd and me, we are pretty much the same guy. I think Ferd is a great guy. And he's against Weezus, okay? Weezus, he's a piece of shit. He's transvestite man. He wears red high heels and wears red lipstick. And a wig. Very disrespectful, very disgusting, but that's what Weezus does. So, I mean, in my opinion, Weezus is piece of shit, but Ferd is trying to fight against this kind of thing that's happening right now.
So, you know who else has a ton of DMs with this person that are way worse than anything Weezus has? Ferd. Ferd never gets mentioned in this interview. Now, they're not terrible. Port Monkey never gets mentioned, but Weezus, specifically Weezus, she spends a whole 2 sentences in this transcript talking about Weezus, saying that specifically he pulled her out of, quote, the Marty community because he thought it was for sure that she wasn't underage. Oh, but, you know, the Norwegian doesn't like Weezus. Maybe that's why she talks about it. And then what else is the rest of this interview spent? It's not on timelines. It's not about specifics. In fact, when the victim tries to change the conversation to being about how scary Shaggy was, it gets turned back into comical clown show bullshit about purple dragons and about KOP, little daddy, whatever. I don't even know what it's called. Fucking bullshit and all this stuff. Huh. And who gets the lion's share of the focus of this interview with the Norwegian? Oh, it just happens to be the interviewer's biggest enemy, who they've been doxing each other's families and who they've been covering each other for months. That's interesting. And you know what the last message that she sent KOP was? It's really interesting, guys, because if you look through the KOP DMs that he provided on the Dead Man Show, most of them are about people that don't matter. They're about TXT. They're about all these people who I don't even fucking know who they are. All this shit, right? But that's not the last message. What's the last message before they sign off, before they go? Out of nowhere, mentioning someone who they only would have known for 2 months before this. Let me find it here. This is on the 29th. This is the last time she actually responded. Oh, look. It's her posting a picture taken from Axel's monitor of Dixon. I wonder how she got that. I wonder who she was being in contact with at the time. Who would have sent her that? Interesting. And then what is the other message that is shown during this interview? This one? Come on, load, you fucker. This really bad one? And apropos of nothing, the Norwegian mentions, oh, this one was taken during Halloween. When did he join this server? Summer? When did Brian leave? Fall? When was the victim suddenly talking about how Axel's monitor? November? I'm going to lay it all out for you. Here's what I think happened. I think the Housemeister and the Plate guys are retarded. I think that they're basically man children, and they don't understand the concept that when you are an adult online, you have a responsibility to not accidentally allow children to be victimized. And this is why you should not be talking intimately or inappropriately or saying crazy shit like "I will rape you," like Housemeister did, which was clearly a joke, but it still looks terrible. Unless you're in an environment where accounts are verified or you've known these people for a very long time. Okay? And our troll interactions. See, this attitude right here in chat is exactly the man-child attitude. Bro, victim was a troll and a doxer. They're a child. I don't care. I don't care that they're a troll. That doesn't justify putting them in these situations where they can be exploited by crazy pedophiles in Norway. The standard of care is on the adults. I know that this is crazy, that children can do stupid shit and be dumb and seek out attention, but it's your job as the adult online to say no. And you know what? I'm gonna give KOP some credit here. As retarded as this interview was, and as stupid as some of the shit he says about beating up the kid, here's a little section here that I think he's 100% right about.
This is, oh my god, it's getting so weird, man.
And until people find out her real age, everyone should block her. There shouldn't be a reason why Kino Shay, Mr. Medicare, Kino Casino, and Sham Troon I'm trying to invite her on streams and DM her.
Well, actually, Sham Troon did not.
To be clear, Shamu didn't do that. This is just Brian, but the other stuff.
Invite her on a stream.
I don't believe that for a second. That faggot
he
is
did not. Shamu did not invite.
No, I'm not making stupid connections. Here, like I said, here's what I think happened. I think that because House and the Plate Guys made the stupid decision to let Axel into their server so that they could troll him, they put him in a position so that when this unverified rando came in and Axel learned that they were vulnerable, and by vulnerable I mean just underage and stupid, he saw an opportunity to get back at all these people that he doesn't like. To manipulate this person to say a bunch of stupid shit after the fact with this interview and everything so that he could get his stupid internet wins, which is quite literally trafficking and exploitation of a child. That is what that is. Okay? And this idea, and the worst part is you can't even say he didn't know, because most of the top points where he platformed them were after the revelation, when he was clearly feeding her crazy details about black or purple dragons and daddy-daughter roleplay and all this shit, was afterwards. When suddenly she just happens to only talk about people that the Norwegian doesn't like and has been trying to get back at for months. When she just happens to change the beginning of the story to make it look like that this Weezus guy brought her in intentionally to disprove that she was underage and that it was like trafficking or something, totally cutting out a whole part of the story. A guy who the Norwegian doesn't like. Every part of that interview is very specifically focused on the Norwegian trying to get wins over these people to the expense of platforming a child. He is in the top category. He's not ought to have known. He did know. And I think he did know for a very long time. And when you look at his DMs, ones that he says don't exist, he says that in this interview. He says, and he tries to play it off like it's tongue in cheek, it's a joke or whatever. But when you look at the DMs that he has with her, they're disgusting. Eat me. I want to put you in my mouth. Like, these are disgusting. They're worse than any of the other people's. With the possible exception of Shaggy. The difference is that after this guy learned that she was underage, he didn't stop. He continued to platform her. And so, no, this is not a sweep for Plate. This is not a sweep for House. Like I said, they are grossly negligent in a way that led to the victimization of a child, all because he couldn't just listen to everybody and kick this fucker out of his server back in fucking August that all this happened. So this is not a sweep for those two groups. However, like I said, there's a hierarchy to this. Okay? And there's more people involved in all of this. There's so much shit in here. But what I really wanted to focus on in this stream is specifically this idea that so much of the airplay has been about Brian and Shaggy. Rightfully, because it's really salacious and funny. And they both look terrible. Like I said, Shaggy much worse than Brian. But because the Norwegian was the one who put out a lot of the extra stuff through the platforming, somehow he seemingly has come out of this, I won't say unscathed because it's impossible for him to be unscathed, but not the focus. And I really think he should be. Because what I think happened is that by House and Plate letting him in the server so that they could own him or whatever, he was put in a position so that when he did run into someone he could manipulate, he victimized them. And then later, when it all came out, likely at his urging, he could write a story about purple dragons and making all the people who already look bad look even worse. Only the people that happen to be the ones that he hates, so that he could score a win off the back of a child. And this is why it wasn't enough to just everyone acknowledge that this guy was bad. It wasn't enough to say, oh, we're only going to bring him on stream when we can fuck with him. It wasn't enough to archive his drunk streams and make him look bad, okay? You can't even interact with this guy in any meaningful way. You can't put him anywhere where he can victimize people, because it will eventually lead to all this shit. And so, like, again, I know that there's going to be people who listen to this and think that this is all some elaborate scheme to sweep for Housemeister and sweep for the Plate guys. And like I said, I'm not having anything to do with either of those guys. There's not going to be a Housemeister. I mean, he could do what he could start streaming again or whatever, but I'm not interacting with him. I'm done, because at a certain point, my crime in all of this was having the incident back in August, me saying you need to cut this shit out, all these people saying you need to cut this shit out, and then just trusting that it was happening. Right? That was my mistake. And it's just like, even in a case where I have 2 degrees of separation, where I have to literally come at this from the outside and find these logs and put together this timeline like a fucking autistic spurg to even know what's even going on, my name gets thrown into it. So that was my mistake, and I'm not going to make it again, as far as like this guy specifically. Like I said, I don't think Housemeister is a predator. I don't think that these Plate guys are specific, at least as far as I've seen, right, are like attracted to children or anything. But at a certain point, like when you take this risk on yourself to let these guys who are known to victimize people, and you let them in because you think it's content or whatever, it blows up and it just scorches everybody around you. And honestly, at this point, you know, if Brian's crimes are like obviously gross negligence, terroristic threats to a child, right, and perjury, right, because he lied. The other thing is him being so stupid in the way he responded to this, from the lying to the theatrics to all this shit that brought these people back just to rightfully laugh at him, allowed who I think is probably the worst person in this story to kind of fly under the radar. The person who I think is who's literally continuing to interact with this child after they've been outed, so that they can feed them with lines about the people they don't like and make this timeline that doesn't fucking make sense to get back at the people, like to get a win on the internet against retards. It's crazy. I'm not letting him off the hook. Like I said, I'm done with him. I'm done with House. Like, you will never see another public or private interaction with the guy. And you know, obviously there's people who kind of, like, when we're talking about collateral damage, I mean, Mr. K is a perfect example. He was in an impossible position, right? You know, when I say impossible position, he obviously could have made the choice not to call in and sweep. That was just a mistake, right? Obviously. But when I say impossible position, the reason he did that was because he was told in a call by Housemeister that there was nothing here, nothing happened, there was nothing bad, and he believed him. And so he went in and did that, which was a mistake. And then people want him to drop DMs. There's nothing in them. There's nothing in them. Like there's nothing about any of this Raven shit in there. Most of it is just like planning call-ins. And it's a shame. It's a shame that, like, because of something that was because it would have been one thing if this whole incident was unrelated to this whole thing back in August. If it was like a totally different incident, then we could have maybe vaguely connected it to don't be dumb on Discord, right? But it's not. It's directly connected to the choice to let this idiot into your house. So that, you know, if you have this server where you don't verify people's ages because it's like a whatever shitpost server, well, then don't have known like people like this there, because you don't know. There might end up being a 15-year-old, right? It's crazy. Well, Mr. K didn't DFE. And I mean, I don't know. I still like him. I'd still call in and do stuff with him. But like, as far as House, like I said, I'm saying on record, I don't think that he's a predator. I don't think that he's, I know people are calling him Nonce Meister. I understand why the chat does that. I don't think that's what he is. I just think that he let this guy, the Norwegian, into his house, and it directly led to this fucking time bomb. And now it's continuing to this day. Like, I guarantee you, these people are still the Norwegian is still interacting with this person, or at least it was until very recently. Because to do that interview and to do everything afterwards, and then you get second and third order idiots like the Warhammer guy, who has a video on his channel where he's calling, him and his friend are calling her. I don't know, and it looks like it's something that's recent. And this is like the exact dynamic I described kind of off the cuff the last stream, where this is a guy who seemingly just doesn't even know what's going on or what like right looks like. And he's just that stupid, where he's just like, who in this story should I follow the lead on? Oh, I know. The Norwegian guy who's the worst guy in the entire story. Incredible. Obviously, what everyone should have done when this came out was block this person and not interact with him at all. And people have had varying degrees of fucking being stupid about that afterwards. But like I said, the Norwegian guy is the one who didn't just keep interacting, but specifically kept interacting in a way to his own benefit, which is the definition of exploitation. And I think everything that is in the testimony in that interview, who she focuses on, the things she says, is supported by the fact that she was told to say that. And the other thing is, the other way you know that there was preparation is, like I said, the fact that the Norwegian says at 2 points during the interview about how they had no DMs, they had nothing, kind of tongue-in-cheek. And she doesn't immediately go back on it. She just kind of vaguely calls him a creep. And we know that that's not true, because there's a bunch of disgusting DMs here between them. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny him calling in with nothing. Well, as far as Axel had nothing to do with Weezus dating her in February, yeah, like I said, the further back you go into the midst of time, the more unclear it is. I already talked about this. Like I said, this is why I specifically said this. The place I'm drawing a line to start making discrete claims is right here. It's the summer of 2020. Is basically when House let him into the server. Everything before this is very difficult to establish. Okay? It's very difficult to establish who knew and who didn't. But what I do know is that the minute this person who has age is unverified, like everyone else in the server, is put next to this person we know victimizes people, suddenly this like ticking clock starts. And then when it blows up, it just so happens all the worst shit and crazy salacious claims are focused on this guy's enemies, and they pretend like he had no DMs with her. It's crazy. Well, I don't take him seriously, Mike. That's kind of why I'm not going super hard. Like, I'm not, saying he's like, I'm not putting him at the same level as the Norwegian. Like, the Norwegian very clearly has, like, intent in all of this. I mean, and you can tell, like, him being conniving starting from the very beginning. Like, hold on. Like, this is their first DM in August of basically right after he got let into House's server. Like, this is the smoking gun that this all happened because the Norwegian was put into proximate contact with the minor as a result of being in House's server. That's August. And look, from the very beginning, they're talking about Ferd and all these other guys, about who he likes and who he doesn't. He starts doing this weird supervillain shit. I have eyes and ears everywhere. Well played. But if you will just listen to me, we can come to an understanding. What the fuck do you think this is? Come on. I can't believe that there are people who are not seeing this, who are not seeing that literally what happened was whatever happened before she entered that house server, it's hard to determine. Whoever knew before that, the minute she gets into it, she starts getting aligned by this crazy freaking PDF like groomer guy. And then eventually it blows up, and then suddenly everything is against all the people he doesn't like. We just dated her first and then ran her server. He's the most guilty. So I do believe that the Plate Gang guys were close to her because she seemed to be this epic troll or whatever. Okay, which is bad. But from the DMs with Weezus, I don't see anything sexual in there. And it's one thing to be like being epic troll on Discord, retarded troll, doing gay ops and shit with someone who you don't know the age of, and talking sexually with them. That's my problem. And also, like I said, a lot of that stuff happened far enough away that it's hard for me to definitively prove anything. What I can point to enough circumstantial evidence to prove is that the minute she was put anywhere near the Norwegian, suddenly all this shit starts happening, and they're talking to each other extensively, and then it all comes out against the people he doesn't like. Like, you need to, you can't misunderstand. I'm not saying, I'm not saying any of these people are, like, innocent, necessarily. Just like I said, I think there are degrees to this. And unfortunately, because this is so bad, the lowest degree is grossly negligent, victimized a child, which is still terrible, right? Like, that's still bad. But because I think it goes so much worse than that, and then above that, you have Shaggy, who ought to have known, had every reason to know. And then you have the Norwegian, who did know. Didn't post all the DMs, and yeah, I do know that there's a claim of a Weezus dick pic. The problem is that claim then gets wrapped up into the idea that if she's being given lines by anyone, it really hurts a lot of her testimony. This is why, like, when you do testimony of minors, they have to be depositions. They're not on the stand. And they have to have been, like, separated from any, like, adverse influence for a certain amount of time, because it's hard to determine. I know, but to be clear, I do know that there's allegations that Weezus did send that. I just haven't seen anything indicating that. And you start to, when I start hearing this from her interview, and there's stuff here that doesn't make sense and is very clearly written by the person interviewing her, I start to be suspicious. No, House, please don't come back. I think you're done, man. I think you're in A-log prison. I agree. I'll say this. If there's more that comes out about Weezus, about his interactions with her, I could see it fitting that way. Because I'll be real, when I was first starting to dig into this, that is kind of the direction I was going to. Because when she says stuff like, oh, they knew I was not of age, and so then Weezus comes in and sweeps me up off my feet, I'm like, okay, that's bad. The reason I started to kind of be suspicious of that narrative is because, like I said, there's this whole middle part with this Port Monkey guy who never gets mentioned by her in this interview. You'd think she would have. Port Monkey has no interaction with the Norwegian. Norwegian has no reason to throw Port Monkey in, right? But then she explicitly says all this about Weezus, who, like I said, I showed, like, the Norwegian doesn't like. That just stinks to me. Saying Brian wasn't even involved. No, so Brian did have interactions with the Raven person, and did say that he wanted to punch her lights out after knowing she was underage, which is indefensible. So, like, I can't strictly say he wasn't even involved. He was involved in the sense that he interacted with her in public discords, and they do have DMs. The DMs themselves are mostly just deranged planning trolling campaigns and him being insane. The issue is that because he was so stupid in the way when this all came out, where he started saying he had no DMs, it makes people believe the adverse. I explained this on the last stream, the concept that if you're caught destroying evidence, it makes people, or the rule in civil court is to believe that the evidence you destroyed is the worst against you. And so when you do have this interview that exists where the victim says, like, he was texting me sexually, and we also have evidence that Brian did destroy evidence in the sense that he said that these were all the DMs and they weren't, it is completely natural for people to then believe, oh, then it must be the worst thing he had these messages. So I don't blame people for that. I don't blame people for, especially like people on the outside who don't know, who are just trying to figure this out. I don't blame them for thinking that. But just from what actually we have, I don't see any sexual stuff. Honestly, just him threatening to fly and beat up a child alone, I think is bad enough to kind of say that he's fucked, right? like even setting aside any sexual stuff, I think that's bad enough. Like that is all you kind of really need. My issue though is that I just really think that I'm basically saying that there's been a domino effect ever since August, since Housemeister was told not and the Plate guys were told not to let Axel anywhere near any of this. That this happened. And if they had just listened, if the people had just listened to that, the probability of this happening is much lower. I did build a pyramid of culpability based off knowledge, intent, timing. I showed you the exact timing. The culpability are all the DMs. The intent is proven by the fact that he's had feuds with all these people for over a year. The knowledge is that it was out that she was underage, and then they did the interview. Like, what are you talking about? That's exactly what I did. House tried to hide. Did he, though? Well, the thing is, it's one thing to say that, like, oh, we don't believe the victim. Like, that's pretty hard sell for something like this. It's another thing where you see that the person interviewing the victim has been in contact with them since August, talking specifically about who they like and who they don't like. And then the interview themselves specifically says that somehow they actually didn't have any bad DMs. And then all the people the victim talks about are people that the interviewer doesn't like. Right? When you go to Rouse KF, the site that, no, those files don't have any of the media in them. That's the problem. I had to go to another guy to get all these because whoever posted these on Snark Vegas is retarded and didn't cache it properly. The images are dead. As far as Dark Ninja, honestly, I started looking. Yeah, I am glad you brought that up. So there is a lot with Dark Ninja. In fact, Dark Ninja might have been talking to this person the longest of anyone. Now, there's so much of it, and I look through it, and I don't see anything strictly sexual. There's some weird stuff in there where she's like pretending to say that she likes him, and he's kind of blowing it off a little bit. That might have to be its own thing. Because, like, I was, specifically for this one, I was just trying to figure out, like, what is near enough, proximate enough to this whole R-Day thing that I could actually come to any firm conclusions about what happened and who's at fault. So don't think that me not talking about Dark Ninja means there's nothing there. It's just that there's so much there, and so much is old. It's so old that it's difficult to verify. And yes, Shrek Snow, you are in all of these, by the way. I don't see you saying anything bad, but you were in this person's server commenting in all of their threads about people. I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing there. I don't even know why you'd want your name in any of this shit, Shrek Snow. Again, I don't see you saying anything bad, but like, I just don't even know why you're in there. It's like playing with fire, man. Brian Snake, the Housemeister, made him show his DMs. I was just trying to cover them up with shows he's go. So if there, I'll say this. One thing that makes me think that there isn't more is because the file on Housemeister posted by the girl is extremely small. It's literally just the images that Kino Blade posted. And if there was worse stuff, I know for a fact she would have fucking posted it because she did it with everyone else and she didn't give a fuck. She was posting people's faces, all sorts of shit. That's why I can't pull everything up on screen right here because it would be impossible to like not dox people, right? And just given her MO, she would have posted a lot more if there was more. So that's why I believe that there weren't any super bad DMs. Again, I don't think that absolves the gross negligence part. It's sort of just like, if you know you have this guy like the Norwegian who victimizes children, who's disgusting, who is conniving, don't put him in a situation where he might interact with people in your server under your watch with unverified accounts. I don't know why that's so hard. I don't know why that is so fucking hard to understand for these people. And you know what else didn't help? Because I know, like I said, there's going to be people who say that I'm like sweeping for plate, even though I've never had any really positive interactions with them. I just, from what I see, it looks like this, other than just being a bunch of gay-opping shit-posting trolls on Discord, which itself is bad, but other than that, I don't directly see any inappropriate messages with the girl, and there does seem to be an adverse motive to say that there are some by the person who I think is writing the script for this person. It didn't help that they decided to say this, which is the most like man-child retard shit possible, which is they went with the "I'm the victim of the child" defense, which is just ridiculous. Why you would say this? Saying nothing would have been better than this, than saying actually, I was, and this whole thing. Let me go off about something. This whole concept of romance trolled is just retarded. You are not a 16-year-old in high school being offered by a 21-year-old woman to buy you booze if you have sex with her. Like, this is ridiculous. You are grown men. You are in your 30s. Why are you talking sexually with these weirdos with these randos in the first place? And when I say sexually, I don't mean like necessarily in DMs, but saying crazy shit like "I will rape you" to random people and stuff like that. You're not being romance trolled. You're retarded. You're not peers. You are not two peers trying to like go at each other. One of you is a 15-year-old. The other one is a full-grown man. This is like, even if this person, this 15-year-old, is conniving, is trying to troll, is trying to fuck with people, it's like teachers who whine about the students and be like, "They're just too clever. They're just too mean to me. You're the teacher. You're the adult. Stop being retarded." Like, come on. Like, I just don't get that, like, that whole angle here. And like I said, I don't, as far as sweeping for Housemeister, no, like I said, I mean, I'm not gonna have any interaction with him from now, because because even if his motives or intent were not malicious or perverse, like he clearly doesn't have the good sense to not be retarded. Like, I'm sorry, it sounds mean, but to not be retarded, to keep putting in these situations. Oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry. This is the Shamu stream. I don't know why I clicked. That's not what I meant to click on. This one. Here it is.
There.
Also, I think everybody is innocent.
I think everybody is innocent. Just crazy stuff there. It's like, first of all, like I said, saying nothing would have been better than anything.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
She lied. Okay, so here's
my theory that Axel groomed Raven into all this has a hole in it, sir. Raven helped Shaggy phone Norwegian's family earlier this year, which led to Axel's sister. So all that does is just change the timeline of when the Norwegians started getting in the girl's ear. And you know what's really interesting about that part of the timeline spring, right? When did Shaggy start getting real sexual with Raven? Early May. So when did that call happen? Here's a theory for you. So Raven and Shaggy start getting close, and she wanting to be this internet protagonist troll, main character syndrome, because she's a child, which is also why giving her attention was a bad idea, because it means she'll never leave, because she thinks she's the main character now. Does that thing where they call the Norwegians family. Shaggy, of course, interprets that as she's my girlfriend now and starts being gay and sexual, or, well, I guess not gay, but being perverse and sexual with her. So then she flips, like she has done with all of these people. And now starts talking to the Norwegian. And because she's, as she said, scared of Shaggy. So then when it all blows up in the middle of June, now it's, okay, everyone shit on Shaggy. Because she had a similar motive to do so. And that's why I think 2/3 of that interview is on Shaggy, because they both wanted to shit on Shaggy. But some of the other people, I think, like House, who she had very few interactions with, or the weird changing the timeline with Weezus, or Brian, that comes off as Axel.
Theory. I think Axel and her got together and did this fucking this gay op.
Yeah.
So I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Shrek. The extent of my interaction was the public areas. Once I learned she was underage, I told Swan to ban her, which I did. Yeah, like I said, I didn't see anything you said there that was bad. It was mostly just you interacting with the posts, as far as saying, like, you know, doing what you do, writing your essays and whatnot. I get that. It's just, I just don't even know why you're in any of these Discords, man, because then your name shows up next to it, right? Like, it's just no good, dude. It's no good. My schizo theory relies on Raven having no agency. No, it does. No, it means she can have agency. Her agency is to be the epic troll main character. She makes it very clear in the interview. She says it all the time, like, I'm making a big splash. I owned you all this stuff, because she's a child, and she doesn't understand that all this shit is going to be on the internet forever, and that in 10 years she's going to wish she was never part of any of this. This is the whole thing with children, is they have the agency that you can manipulate them into, right? You feed them this shit. You say, oh yeah, you'll be so cool if you do this. You'll be so cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has all the Axel staples. It has underage, and now she's accusing people of doing MLP roleplay. Yeah, dog, that's Axel shit all the way, dog.
I do agree with that, but I wouldn't. I'll say this: these are not the right people to say it, right? Because they have a motive to say that.
He's a brony.
I mean, dog. She was literally like, Axel was literally just making shit up on stream, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that did happen, but I don't have the proof for it."
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Right. So she's offered like no proof of anything, really. Right. All this shit she's saying. She's a complete liar. That's the one thing everybody knows. But all of a sudden, she says something about somebody that other people want to go at, and they believe her magically all of a sudden. And now everybody's falling for her shit, just like the people that ended up in her DMs and got fucking romance trolled.
Romance trolled. Like I said, I do agree that I think some of the crazier details with no evidence are planted there by the Norwegian, so that under the promise that it will make her this cool, epic main character. But this whole romance troll thing is just so ridiculous. You know, like, if you are a grown man and you can be, quote, romance trolled by a 15-year-old, you do not have the presence of mind to be talking to people in DMs online.
But let me ask you this. I mean, besides all that, Motorboat, like, romance trolled or not, whether the DMs are, you know, whatever it is, right? It's still like that. If
you go back far enough, if the question is like a but-for analysis, like would the person even be anywhere close to this? Maybe you could go back to Ninja. But like I said, I'm trying to confine myself to a point of narrative that is near enough that we have the most like evidence for. And I saw someone here say that most of my evidence is circumstantial. I've given this little explanation before, but I guess I'll do it again. Circumstantial evidence is more than enough to convict, even at a criminal level, even beyond a reasonable doubt, which obviously is not what we're at here, to be clear. Like, I'm not trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt here, because I don't have to. This isn't a criminal court. Circumstantial evidence is enough, even in a criminal court. The classic example is if you're standing behind a table and you have a pen and you have a audience in front of you, and you drop the pen passes under the table, and it makes a noise when it hits the ground. You ask the audience what happened to the pen. They say it hit the ground, and you say, well, you didn't see it hit the ground. And they say, well, we heard it hit the ground. We saw it pass under the threshold of the table. Where else would it go? That's all circumstantial evidence that proves that the pen hit the ground, and no one is going to tell you that you're wrong for that. The other one is the umbrella. Is a guy walks in from outside when it's raining with a wet umbrella. He closes the umbrella and he puts it away. His wife comes down and says, oh, it's raining out. And then the guy says, how do you know it's raining out? You're not looking out the window. You don't see it's rain. It's like, well, you're wet. You have an umbrella that's wet. I can hear the rain. That's all circumstantial evidence, but it is raining. When I see that the first messages with this person are in August, that is the circumstantial evidence that they would not have had any interaction with the Norwegian but for them being in this server. When I see that they have this compulsion to be this main character to get these wins on people, and so does the Norwegian, and then when they finally come together after she's already been shown to not be underage, all the people they talk about are ones that the Norwegian doesn't like, that's circumstantial evidence that tells me that some of those details were planted there by him. And what's not circumstantial is the fact that he did continue interacting with a minor after they were exposed to be a minor. That's direct. And that is worse, I think, than what anyone else did. Like, even worse than Shaggy. Somehow. As crazy as that sounds, somehow. Now, like I said, Shaggy ought to have known. And I honestly think that there's enough circumstantial evidence to say that Shaggy is attracted to people who look younger than 18, just because he himself said that he's gotten prostitutes that look younger than that, and other comments. But I tend to find that, like, the trafficking and exploitation of a child is probably the best supported worst crime here.
To the people's knowledge of her being an adult woman, right? She never
absolutely.
Yeah, Mike. That's why it's called circumstantial evidence. You prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean beyond no doubt. It is possible that we could all be floating brains in a vat, and that there is a devil that sends signals to our brains to make us see the matrix that we're living in. That is possible, but it is unreasonable. So the idea that there could be a virtual rain outside is possible, but it's not reasonable. That is not a reasonable doubt. But the idea that you see the guy come in and he's wet and you hear the rain means it's raining.
Never, yeah, exactly. She never specified she was a minor at all.
So she never did, and that's the thing that's her problem, because Shaggy didn't know that she was underage,
but he ought to have.
Shaggy and her,
he was given enough and seen enough that he ought to have
both kind of come out and admitted that she flashed Shaggy her tits. If Shaggy didn't know, she knew she was underage, that would mean that Raven has produced and distributed fucking porn of minors.
Yes, except that the law is specifically written in a way where a minor cannot be guilty of distributing their own nudes. This is retarded, and you should know that. Imagine the backwards logic here, where it's actually the minor's the culprit.
Oh no! Holy fucking shit, dude! It's gotten worse.
Raven makes child porn and distributes it.
Oh.
So Axel is more guilty than Shaggy for interviewing the minor that Shaggy dated for 6 months. Because even though Shaggy ought to have known she was a minor, it is possible that he, within his mind, legitimately didn't. Which is worse than knowing someone is a minor and exploiting them anyway. But it's a very close. I admit it's very close. Like, they're both kind of... I hear to speak to your point, Partridge Pete. Most crimes involving minors are strict liability, which means that your motive actually doesn't, or that your knowledge actually doesn't matter. They're very rare. The strict liability crimes are very rare. So, what are all the crimes here? House and plate. Just gross negligence after being warned not to associate with a guy who can victimize people like this. not letting him into his house led to the victimization of a minor. Brian, also negligence led to the victimization of a minor. Less, I would say, because he did lead the server. But then you have terroristic threats to a minor and perjury, which then calls into question everything else that could be worse. Pretty bad. Then we have Shaggy ought to have known by any metric that they were a minor, and then furthermore, once he did know, decided to show her face publicly and A-log her video, which was really bad, and then, apropos of nothing, admit to getting prostitutes that look underage. Retard. Catastrophic retardation. So catastrophic that it became the main story. And then, like I said at the top, I think it's the Norwegian. I think it's, if you are the sort of perverse mind that sees a minor and thinks, damn, I can get this person to say the things I want so that I can beat guys on the internet and make them look bad. I'm sorry, but that level of like second and third order intent just speaks to so much more than just perversion and retardation, but to actual malice. Actual malice. And, you know, you could start to kind of bleed that down the ladder, especially towards the people who, by their mistake, let a person with that level of malice in their brain and in their heart to even be in a position where they, under your name, by being on your server or associated with you, can do that. But I really do think that that's uniquely bad. And I'm going to say that this is probably I mean, I never wanted to ever talk about the Norwegian, like, directly on stream. I've been very conspicuous not to, but I just had to for this, because it just, all this other stuff, like the Shaggy stuff and the Brian stuff, like I said, I totally get why people are talking about it. It's crazy, right? And a lot of it is really funny, especially like the Sector City stuff. That's why I talked about the Sector, focused on that, because that's just like, that's just funny, right? It's not that serious. Or like, it doesn't have like a victim, really. But I just feel like this particular guy kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Not really necessarily due to any failure by anyone, but just because of the nature of it. And, you know, if the way that all this like stupid drama commentary works is that if you get enough people talking about it, you'll eventually get all the angles and then people can judge for themselves. Well, this is one angle. To the two people that watch this, is that I think that this person is the most malicious here. And I think that anyone, and I assume none of the people here have any, I hope none of the people here have any interactions with them or let them in or whatever, but just don't. Like, it should be the same policy with them as with the victim, honestly. It's just total block, no contact, nothing. Because even if you don't like them, even if you're just letting them in to squeeze them for content or whatever, you never know when 6 months later it turns out they were victimizing. Like, it turns out that all the shit was like this blows up like this. But yes, I don't think, despite the gross negligence, I don't think House is a predator or attracted to children. I think that he made a mistake that people warned him not to make, and that this was the consequence, unfortunately. But I'm not. The fact that I was two orders of separation from this, to the point where, like I said, I had to reconstruct it from the outside, and my name is still being read on a fucking Mr. Cancer stream, means that I guess I can't even do that. Like, I guess that is too close. So, and that's my mistake. So that's my crime. My crime is that I should have known this back in August, back when this first blew up, and we first had this whole big fight about this, and we all told that should have been the point where I literally just stopped interacting with any of these people, even publicly, because that's really all it's been. It's pretty much all public, other than like, I'm gonna call. When do you want to call in? Like, messages like that. So that's me. That's my lesson that I guess I'm taking from all this is don't even call into people who have a Discord. Right? Like that. And I just hope I hope that this is going to sound crazy, but I hope the Norwegian got whatever the fuck they wanted out of this victim and that they leave him alone. Because that's the only way they're ever going to leave is if people stop interacting with them. Because right now they're riding high, thinking they're the main character. They don't even understand how much baggage this is going to create for them over years and years, having their face out there like this, being associated with any of this shit. So I just hope that, and even like, you know, there's suggestions. I haven't seen evidence of this. There's suggestions that even like the plate guys were still interacting with her after because they continued to not believe that she was underage, which is just insane. Like, even if you aren't sure, that should be just an immediate no contact, right? But they did it, or they might have done it. I don't know. But if that claim is true, they were doing it because they were trying to prove that it was all the quote romance troll shit. It's like, if there's even a possibility you were quote romance troll by a 15-year-old, you're done. Like, you're out. Like, you need to just get as far away from it as possible. Not try to keep interacting with them. You're digging it deeper, and you just look like a crazy. You look like you put yourself at that level. You look like you view yourself as a 15-year-old, that you are peers with a 15-year-old. You know how fucking pathetic that is? Has Kino Casino covered this? No, fuck no. Fuck no. Yeah, use Google. No, yeah, use Google Plus. What was the one before? Google Buzz. Use Google Buzz. Yeah, you don't like the flame. Well, I wanted a new border because the only reason I was using the flame border was because we were burning Templar at the stake. And then I wanted a new border, but I couldn't really find a cool one. These chats are crazy. No one's innocent. No one's innocent. He's just not innocent. None of these people who I've talked about today are innocent. They're just various degrees of either stupid to the point of victimizing a child, or stupid to the point of seeing themselves as a peer to a child, or malicious to the point of exploiting a child. like this is the thing. Yeah, I don't blame them for not covering this, honestly. Well, what's funny about the Liana thing, Liana chimped out and was like, "No, it's all been proven," and then blocked me. And I've never interacted with her. I've never done it. It's funny. She was replying to a tweet that tagged me, and then basically threw up her arms saying like, "This proves everything," because it was a reply to a tweet that said something that wasn't true. It was the one that Jim read. That tweet that Jim read isn't true, where it was like, "But you knew about all this." It's like, no, I didn't. Like I said, I wasn't in the server. I wasn't talking to any of these people. I didn't respond to that tweet because it's like, I'm not going to reply to a reply that sources do trust me, right? Little did I know was that it was going to get that somehow like Jim would find it and read it on stream. And then Liana responded to that being like, "I knew it," and I was going to respond to her with a meth pipe that was just like sources cited, but she immediately blocked me after replying, and she hadn't blocked me before. But yeah, the other thing I'll say is I kind of covered this. There's more to this. There are other characters in this. Like I said, I'm still not 100% clear on Dark Ninja's involvement. I do know that there are some messages of him that go back to like 2023. Now, I couldn't prove directly in the records here that those were messages to her, but there are messages to her from like before anyone else. And some of them that seem to be her trying to like flirt with him or something. And he had varying responses to that. Like, I'm gonna have to spend more time looking at that, and I just don't want to. I don't want to sweep for anyone, but like there is, like, this stuff is out there. You can look at it yourself. The problem is the further. This is why like there's a statute of limitations for crimes, because the further back in time you go, the harder it is to draw conclusions, because there's so much other like stuff that could be floating around that just doesn't exist anymore. So I just don't even know. And then there's some of these other guys like the sheriff guy, and a few others who were DMing her a lot that are in there that I couldn't fully draw like a complete picture of. So don't think that this is comprehensive. This is just me trying to come up with some kind of something coherent about the main figures of just the last 6 months. and where I think this kind of the ball really got rolling in the most proximate sense in relation to like Hausmeister and all this other stuff and how it led here. Yeah, it was Hujin. Will you do the KOP interview about Sector City with? Oh, did that happen? Did that happen? I totally go over that if that happened. I'm saying that Axel framed Weezus. Not entirely. I'm not going to say that that's entirely what happened, but I do think that at least the very specific part of the interview where she portrays it as if Weezus directly dipped into the Marty community and saved her from being the implication that basically Weezus trafficked her. I do think that that was put in there by the Norwegian. Now, anything else outside of that could be there and could have happened and be worse than just gross negligence. I just haven't seen it. So I'm not going to just say it. Is Warhammer in this? I don't even think Warhammer has a theory of mind for himself. Like he just seems to be like 2 days behind everything. And I honestly think he's just being wrangled by a couple other people to get him to do and say stupid shit. Who are just whispering in his ear. That's the impression I get. Because like even in this crazy video he put where he, weeks later, like even past the interview, is calling this person. Like he has another guy on the call with him, right? Well, Clearhanger, I do agree. That's why I put Shaggy in the absolute ought to have known, and the rest of these guys in gross negligence. Because if they're paying attention at all, they really should have known. And gross negligence by even allowing someone like the Norwegian in there around unverified users. One line is black because it's Raven's interview narrative, and the pink one is KOP's narrative. No, but people are speculating. Cool. I love that. I'd love to hear the interview about Sector City. I hope Cool can not troll him too hard so we can get the most information. Did Axel commit a crime by interviewing her? A crime? Like, as far as he did something wrong. Yeah, he exploited a minor for his own benefit. By putting her on publicly and having her talk about these topics in a way that very obviously benefited him. Yeah. He exploited a minor by doing that. Which is, I think, like probably the worst, it's the reason why I would say it might be worse than what Shaggy did is because Shaggy at least can perhaps fall back on the idea that he is so retarded that even though he ought to have known, he literally didn't, whereas Axel literally did. And because he already had all these narratives in place, it indicates, and he has previous interactions with her. He was talking sexually with her too. So basically, he did everything Shaggy did and more, right? Yeah, as far as Mr. K being innocent, I think he's innocent of anything to do with any of this fucking with the victim or anything. Totally. Like the one quote wrong. It's more of a mistake than anything that Mr. K did. Is just the response to all of this, not anything to do with it. And that's like an entire another league of bad, like not bad, right? That's like another galaxy. It's like, oh, you didn't respond to something you weren't even involved in perfectly. Yeah, like that's a whole different thing. They flayed him alive on air for. Well, Gahul didn't. Even I didn't. Brian chimped out in my comments about the Sector City thing, even though I provided no commentary. I literally just reposted his exact thing. I didn't like react to it. I didn't shit on him or anything. Like, that's the weird thing about Brian. Brian thinks that, like, just by reposting him, you're insulting him because I guess, like, because what he says is so retarded that it could only be interpreted that way. I don't know. Shaggy face docs her before she put out her video, didn't she? So Shaggy had received pictures of her before that. Which is one of the reasons, like, biggest reasons why he ought to have known. As far as I know, he did not face dox her before, at least not publicly, maybe in Discord, but not like in a video. There is some crazy shit though. Like there's the Impressa recording where they're supposedly it's all a setup. Supposedly it's a troll where they're talking about doing porn together or something. And that's from like January. But like I said, we already know that his narrative about having only spoken to her for a few months is a lie. We can already prove that. Axel didn't unironically think he was in a relation. It doesn't matter whether you think you're in a relationship. You're still talking to a minor sexually. What, you think it's less bad if you don't think it's a relationship? What? You can't. There is no orderly relationship with a minor in the first place. But if you're talking sexually with them, then like it's bad either way. I said, I hope he really is in rehab, and I hope. But like I said, it usually on average takes 5 rehabs for it to work. So. Mr. K should have known better. Yeah, but I mean, he took a chance. He flipped a coin on trusting his friend, right? And looking back now with the shit in August and the fact that it was clear that, you know, because like what House would tell us is like, oh yeah, like, we just play video games with these plate guys, like nothing's happening, right? There was reason to be skeptical of that, I guess. Like in a perfect debriefing. Yeah, there might have should have known, but in the moment when it's happening live and your friend has just assured you, like not over text, but like I said, like they had a call that everything's fine, I am sympathetic. He reacted to her video. That was after she was revealed to be underage. Dog Zero, tell everyone to smash the like button. No, I don't do that. We just forgive Mr. K and move on. I think it's kind of crazy to even put like Mr. K jumping the gun on, like believing his friend and jumping the gun on saying he didn't do anything is even in the same galaxy as like what is even being covered for, right? When he had nothing to do with it. I think Brian was extremely angry. They like played everything from his IRL recently. It was pretty brutal, and then people talked about his hobby. Well, the problem is he chimped before all of that. He chimped on Kiwi Farms lying about his shit with the victim before any of that. And that's the perjury. And then that perjury makes everybody think that the stuff that has no evidence is true. Like, that's the problem. And then that made him the headline, even though there really isn't a lot of bad stuff directly there. As far as talking about his hobby, like, dude, really, I don't understand this. You sound like the other guy who's clearly Brian's alt on Twitter, where it's like, they're dragging him for Sector City when no one has done anything. They literally just reposted the materials, and then there's comments. It's like, if you posting your own thing publicly makes people naturally laugh at it, then other people reposting the thing you posted publicly is not you getting dragged. Like, this is... I'm sorry, but you needed to grow out of caring that people make fun of you for playing D&D in middle school, buddy. I've been playing D&D with the same guy, or various tabletop games, but D&D among others, since I was 13. Like, and no one, I mean, I guess, I can't even remember if anyone ever made fun of us for it, but like, if they did, you grow out of that really fucking fast. The thing about Brian's games that's the most interesting is the fact that it's just so obviously a revenge fantasy. It's so obviously like, Brian's like, I lost in the real timeline. So I'm going to make this new timeline where all my enemies are literally eating children and I can kill them. Or I can create a situation where any reasonable player would kill them. I don't know. Mr. K might come back. I think he's just taking a break. He hasn't decided yet. Shaggy did face Doc Surfer. Well, then fuck him. And fuck him for reacting to that video, too. And yes, she did, from multiple, like, sources, including Shaggy himself, he did see her nudes, which is crazy. Yes, and he threatened to shoot Shamu, like, all this shit. Shaggy's problem is that he wants to hold on to all that. Well, I think what he wanted, he just felt like a really strong impulse to defend like a person he viewed as his friend and like on side. And my attitude towards it was like, this is all happening in one night. I'm gonna wait and see like how people cover it and like what comes out basically. Because like I said, I had to approach it from the outside because I was not a direct witness to any of this stuff. The stuff that I was like public, like you know, the stuff that blew up in August, right? So I really didn't want to just say anything. You can't see why. No, I can see why he's mad. I'm specifically talking about his response to the Sector City stuff. I think you're Brian now. Because you sound just like him. The guy on Twitter. I don't have evidence, I'm just saying. I'm just messing around. But the thing is, the reason why KOP is even doxed as hell, and the only reason he's even in this conversation is because he won't fuck off after all of this. So I don't have sympathy for that, number one. And number two, all that stuff has nothing to do with laughing at his RPG, which is what I was just talking about. But you can say House did nothing wrong. This entire stream has been dedicated to saying that House didn't do nothing wrong. That he literally did do something wrong. Again, you sound just like Brian. This is exactly what he says. He takes one thing you say, combines it with something else that's unrelated, and then invents a complete opposite opinion no one said. Half the stream has been dedicated to House literally didn't do nothing wrong. He did do something wrong. Him letting Axel into the server after everyone told him not to and keep him there directly led to all of this. And even if his intent was not to like victimize Minor or any of the stuff, his gross negligence directly led to it. It is the direct opposite of what you said. Insane. Straight up Brian posting. Long live Texarkana. True. Also, if you just, you really do sound like him now. That's exactly what he would say. I did say I was kidding. You just, the way you are typing about this is literally the way Brian does, though. It is very strange. And giving passes to Mr. K, because like I said, there's so big of a difference between covering what happened badly and being part of what happened. Mr. K's mistake was responding to what happened in too quickly before all the information was out, which is a completely other galaxy from being involved in what happened, like being part of it, obviously. So obviously I think that whatever wrong he did is of a completely different nature than anyone else, including House, who did do wrong. Like I said, this mistake is what led to all this. But you're being black and white thinking, just like Brian, where if you equivocate at all, if you make any kind of like nuanced comparison in wrongdoing or anything, it's, oh, you're giving him a pass. Oh, you're saying Brian's a pedo. Like, it's just classic shit. Brian posing his base and content build. Brian didn't even know what's going on. I don't agree. I don't think World of Darkness is the right setting for Sector City. I thought it would be more like a cyberpunk detective game. But, you know. You're pulling Sector City and someone pulls the Raven card and you have to shut your game down. Yeah, but to pull the Raven card, you have to have pulled the Norwegian card and kept it in your hand for more than 3 turns. You're not getting my point. Shaggy talked to her daily for hours, may have received all news this one for 6 months. A single DM from Sack. That's not a single DM. Bro, are you kidding me? You want me to read this shit? Is that really the defense? Are you serious, man? There's a lot more than one thing saying eat me. There's a lot more, and I showed more. There's them talking about coming to an understanding. There's voice memos. There's my dear. There's...
I do believe I know who you're talking to, my dear. I have eyes and ears everywhere. My only request is a parlay of sorts between our factions.
What does it sound like to you?
Let's not play these stupid games, Raven, my dear. You're obviously talking to Swede and Housemeister right now. That's right. I have spies everywhere. I have eyes and ears everywhere. And it's time for us to parlay. You know the power I wield within my grasp, and I can share that power with you, but it's going to cost you.
What does it sound like? Like, are you serious, man? You thought that was the only thing, and that's why I wasn't showing it all? Maybe I wasn't showing it all because it's fucking gross. Maybe it's for your own fucking benefit. Have you ever thought of that? But no, it's just one DM, right? You want me to show you the DMs where he talks about how horny he is? Where is my bisexual threesome? What are you doing tonight? E-sex time? Fucking retard. Like... I don't care, flat chest. I like you for your personality. He says that her sending nudes to Shaggy was him being cucked. Want to be my girlfriend. And they're talking about having a threesome with Shaggy. I'm gonna get really drunk and write super cringe stuff. Yeah. Right? Yes, it is intentional because there's all sorts of fucking shit in all of this. Like, it's impossible to show half of this stuff without, like, doxing or showing all, like, stuff I don't want to show. Who are the real PDFs in the Raven scandal? Norwegian. Shaggy, and then Shaggy ought to have known, and there's enough circumstantial evidence to conclude by most reasonable people that he is attracted to people who look underage, based off his comments about prostitutes and him saying that she thinks the girl looks of age. No one else is a PDF. But other people are grossly negligent to the point that it led to a victimization of a child, and also sending terroristic threats to fly and beat up a child, which is pretty bad. Fair point. I haven't read these DMs. I'm going to have an opinion about them and say that there's only one, but I haven't read them. I don't know anything. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm here to tell you. I choose to blame everything on Shreks now. Like, when I have, like, so much of this shit for, like, the Norwegian and then, like, Shaggy and stuff, I'm not going to put House and Brian and the Plate guys at the same level at that point. Like, I know that there was one of Shemu's mod guys was saying that there's some theorizing about Axel having some kind of weird relationship. That could be true. I'm not going to tell you that's not true. I'm just telling you what I see here from what has been leaked. And there's nothing in there about that, or that appears that way. And there aren't sexual messages that I've seen. And so I just think it's suspicious that specifically the narrative becomes that Weezus is, like, trafficking an underage person, a person that the Norwegian himself does not like, in this interview, where a third of it is them telling crazy, salacious stories about someone they both dislike. A third of it is her telling crazy, unsubstantiated stories about someone Axel dislikes. And then the first third is just a basic, like, half of a basic timeline. Do I have House DMs? I have one DM on Twitter with House where I asked him if he flagged Swan Kelly, and then he responded, Swan Smelly. That's my DM with House on Twitter. Big leak, guys. Yeah, this is what I mean, Shrek. Now, there's a lot of stuff with the Axel thing, especially if beyond just the DMs, but also once you start putting it together with everything else that happened in the timeline, which is what I'm trying to show here. But it didn't really get covered because, as always, Brian had to make this about himself and do a bunch of crazy sus shit that makes him look way worse than he had any right to be in all of this. And then obviously Shaggy, which is, Shaggy did deserve, because he is fucked here, right? Obviously. Raven House. No, I don't know. No, literally the only thing she posted in her, like, big thing with all this comes from are just the pictures that were leaked by Kina Shea. Just these. This is all we have for House, and this come from the archives. Is him saying that he'll say everything's fake because he was vigorously stroking Tatachi, which is some other bitch, I don't know. This, which is related to the Norwegian, and him jerking off over this girl again, and then him randomly saying he's going to do this, right? This is all we got. At least all I have. Stop vague posting. I did. I just showed you a whole bunch of them from the Norwegian. Didn't Weezus have an... Again, if that's true, show it to me, because I don't see it. I've seen random people with no evidence claim that there was an relationship and that he sent her dick. He denies it. So I don't know. It could be true. It could 100% be true. But I also see that that the Norwegian would have a motive of that being the story. So, like, and he's the only one who has directly, we have evidence, has spoken sexually with her and continued to interact with her and platform her after it was revealed that she was underage. Also, yeah, got it. Okay, so this is straight up Brian. Also, House and Mr. K get a pass. How many times do I have to keep saying that they don't get a pass? I went on a whole rant explaining exactly that they don't get a pass. It's just that what Mr. K did is like an entire different galaxy. It's covering the bad thing too quickly rather than being part of the bad thing. And then House was grossly negligent and directly led to the victimization of a child. I even said that Brian wasn't a PDF. I said that the guaranteed one here is the Norwegian who exploited a child, and Shaggy by most definitions. In the sense that he has shown that he has a history of being attracted to people who look like minors. And if we're even setting that aside, he ought to have known. He ought to have known. Even if he himself truly did not. Like this like paragraph posting where you repeat something that has been directly addressed and then again take it into another black and white and then say got it is straight up right out of his playbook. I mean, I can prove it to you right here. I'm pulling it up. Like this sort of paragraph posting where you, like I said, you take something that you said about one person, you relate it to someone completely different, and then take the complete opposite that no one said, and then say got it, is just straight up like KOP anger texting. I was kidding before, honestly. Now I'm not quite as kidding. I don't know what to make of this, the why you have to keep doing this. I'm not downplaying. I just told you exactly what the position was. And then you keep misstating it because, again, this is exactly what he does. How many people have gone through this? Well, I have gone through a lot. Well, the problem is there's so many of them that it took me hours to go through like a whole bunch of them, and then I build the timeline and then present it to you, and then show the ones that are actually important. Did you delete it? Did you delete it? Oh, boy. Totally crazy man on the internet, not somebody who also read what you're stating and seeing you downplaying and seeing like this is the classic Brian thing where I've said over and over and over again, Brian is not a PDF. Brian is not a PDF. He shouldn't have been the headline of the story. He made himself the headline by being an idiot. And this guy's takeaway is, you're attacking Brian! Like, this is straight up what he does, where he just makes it worse. Where like any good faith that's offered to him, he immediately slaps it away and is like, no, you're only defending me. Like, it's so funny. It's so funny. You're down. You said that House was grossly negligent, leading to the victimization of a child. You're downplaying it. You're saying he's innocent. Anything less than calling everybody other than me a PDF is calling me a PDF. That's straight up Brian posting. This is straight up Brian posting in the chat here right now. True. Let's put on the X-Files. That's true. Where is it? It's like the remix. Yeah, this one. You typing in the chat. I'm just going to start reading your chats in the Brian voice now. Oh, I got to unmute. How's random server? It's clearly all happening there, and you completely downplay it. You only said he victimized the child by gross negligence. Your actual statement is pretty good. I agree with it, but your house downplay. He's so mad. This is pretty good. You seem like a lone cat. Well, I mean, KOP would know, right? What else you got here? Totally crazy man on the internet. Not somebody who's also read what you're stating and seeing you read what you're stating. That's what Brian is if I ever heard one. Read what you're stating. And seeing you downplay and seeing somebody slightly disagrees with you. Just having fun here. I'm just a crazy gay man on the internet. Just having fun. Just playing Sector City. My name's Dr. Iceberg and it's slight disagreements. He is gay, Ralph. I can't believe we even stabbed Brian. Yeah, I stabbed him in the back by saying he's not a PDF. Like, it's like such a Brian thing. It's like, yeah, you know, in all of this, I actually think Brian didn't really was not the worst at all. Unfortunately, by his insane response, it kind of made him the headline, but no, he definitely wasn't a PDF. Response, you're calling him a PDF, you're attacking his family. It's just so crazy. Just having fun watching you melt down while you get mad at randoms in chat. He's gonna flag you down now. You're right, you are. Oh, did you just threaten to flag me down? Everyone take a picture of that chat right there. The guy who I'm making fun of for sounding like Brian just said I'm gonna get flagged down. Oh damn, he seemed mad. Meanwhile, writing 10 paragraph essays in my chat about how I'm downplaying the guy I said was grossly negligent. You're attacking Brian for saying he's not a PDF. Yes, you getting flagged now, boy. There we go. There we go. Everyone screenshot that. If I get flagged down now, we know this guy was him. See, this is the good mutually assured destruction. Because either it's not Brian, in which case I won't get flagged, right? Or it is Brian, and now he can't flag me because he was retarded and said this, and we're taking a screenshot of it. I've only had I've had no interactions with Brian. That's the funny thing. I've also only ever had pleasant interactions with Brian because I've had no private interactions with Brian. That's why I've only had pleasant ones. I committed the great crime of saying he's not a PDF. I gave House a full pass by saying he's grossly negligent. Amazing. You're directly tied. Jim told me. True. Actually, you know what? That's what I believe now. I'm going to absolve this guy. This guy is not Brian. I take it back. This is the guy pretending to be Brian by talking just like how Brian does to make him look bad. So I want everyone, don't fall for it, guys. It's not Brian. This is one of Brian's million trolls. He's actually probably getting ready for church right now. Brian will have his revenge. These Brian sock messages keep getting better. All right. I think that's everything I wanted to present. We even got our fake, not really Brian in the chat. Yeah, boom. I just figured it out. True. I'm sorry. I was blind. And now I see. So I know I promised a hot tub stream yesterday. The problem is it took hours and hours and hours. Yeah, the person who should have known she was underage is the guy who had her personal phone number. Are you talking about Shaggy? Do you know what ought means? And how I put Shaggy in the category of ought to have known? If you're talking about Shaggy, then yeah, he ought to have known. If you're talking about Weezus, then yeah, show me that that's true, and I will agree with you. He ought to have known too. Sure, I'll put him in that category if I see that. Fine with that. Would troll you again. You sound like Hoojin. I'm just bullying A-Law. Does Shaggy even know what year it is? I think so. You need an iceberg. We could make our day iceberg. That'd be kind of fun. True. Brian's everywhere. Or Brian's trolls are everywhere. But yeah, so I said there was going to be a hot tub stream yesterday, but it like I kind of alluded to, I was worried that it would take too long to heat up, and it did take too long to heat up. But I think it will. I think it's ready today. The problem is the Flex Seal started to fail, but we think it's not the Flex Seal's fault. So we're trying a new solution to strengthen our Flex Seal, because it is now finally at the right heat. See, before we fixed the leak, but it wasn't hot enough. Now it's hot enough, but the leak is back, right? These stupid redneck upright hot tubs. That's why I prefer the one I was at before. That one heats up in 30 minutes because it's a real hot tub. But so there might be. Well, I guess I'll do my best to do one later tonight. We'll be pretty drunk, so we'll see what happens. We get a palate cleanser. You have a good suggestion? Sure. What do you want me to play? Hoojin came back to. Oh fuck! Good lord! All right. Is it what I already saw yesterday? It's just him being gay about the Fourth, it looks like. I want more novellas. I like the big, like, either declaring war novella or the declaring victory novellas. And I want the dramatic music arenas. That was my favorite part of the Hoojin stream. Saying Shaggy is less guilty? I mean, he is guilty. He's guilty of what he's guilty of. The problem is you're thinking of guilt as only on a single spectrum, whereas what you have to be guilty of something, right? And there are different crimes. Shaggy's 100% guilty of what he did, which is that he ought to he literally received CP and he spoke sexually with a minor, and he ought to have known that they weren't. That's like one of the worst things you can do. He's 100% guilty of that. I just think that what Axel did also speaks that what he is guilty of specifically speaks to a like perverse, malicious intent that is rather unique to what he did. Yeah, I get it, Kafer. It's all good. Think of a legal sense like actual crime. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, okay, fair enough. So in that sense, I would say that if we're actually looking through, like, the civil statute, what Shaggy did is, like, actually illegal. And it's a strict liability offense. So, yeah. I'm more talking about kind of a little deeper than that, like wrongness, and also just trying to look into, like, the actual motives. And not just motives, but who I think is the like evil, I guess, evil character here, even though, like, obviously they both have that in them. And like I said, mostly just to make the polemical argument that when we the polemical argument that we never should have, or we never, what do I mean we? I didn't. That everyone telling House that he shouldn't have had this guy in the server, even to pwn him, has been more 100 billion% proven, because even just having him around can lead to victims, right? Do I hate more, the Norwegian or Vito? Bro, that's a hard one. Kill, Mary, great. Paradise Metal, sure. Well, this guy who we're pretending is Bryant. Oh damn, this is a whole album. That's cool. You should keep coming by, guy who's pretending to be Brian. I'll do more chimp outs where I read your paragraphs. And we both win, right? Well, yeah, I mean, so like I didn't touch on some of the other stuff that the Norwegian has done. If you include all of those, then like it becomes a whole nother conversation, right? Obviously. Yeah, I see it. Oh, there's a video too. Is this a video too? Can rock and metal be Christian? 100%. I mean, Underoath was Christian. It was pretty based. There's a whole album here. I'll definitely listen to this album. Byzantine music. This is what they were playing when Jay Dyer returned to the imperial throne of Byzantium. Yeah, definitely. What else? What are some other Christian? Norma Jean. There's even a Christian emo band. What were they? What were they called? Hold on. Now, because it's emo, it's not exactly, it's like mixed on its view of religion, or no, that's not the right word. Conflicted, I guess you could say. Boxing. These guys have a few songs that are very obviously Christian. Skillet? Yeah, Skillet! I'm going down. Trouble, yeah. With a rosary. Tongue pressed on gill. From a dove in my teeth. I could let you drip down. People are still coping Persip was right when they should have just burned KOP and yeah, so I basically just stand by exactly what I said in the Jub stream, which is that Jub's specific statement that you should not have any interaction with the Norwegian, he was right. My argument was that he was giving good advice for an ulterior motive like he does with a lot of things. Not necessarily a malicious ulterior motive, to be clear, but it's part of his weird, like, pseudo-boyfriend complex stuff. How do I explain Jesus not returning in this contemporary generation as he prophesied? So you were referring to the fact that in the Olivet Discourse, he says that you will see these things. There is a specific verse break in the middle of the Olivet Discourse that changes the Greek tense between something that's going to happen imminently and something that's going to happen far in the future. And what he predicted would happen imminently did happen in 70 AD with the burning of the temple. This is why I tend to believe that partial preterism is the best interpretation of Revelation, that basically everything up until Revelation 20 verse 6 already occurred by the end of 70 AD. And before that verse break, he does predict specifically, basically, that the temple will burn and everything around it, and the people being scattered and everything like that. So that is fulfilled. And then that would mean that if we say that Revelation 19 already occurred after that, there's a verse obviously of Jesus returning with the sword coming out of his mouth. That's the spreading of the word. We are currently living in the age of the church, in the millennial kingdom, for which the word will be spread throughout the entire world, galaxy, depending on what you think, all to lead eventually to Satan finally being loosed, which ends the millennial kingdom, then him deceiving the nations, and then finally the camp of saints until the final victory, and then the new earth. There is a theory that verse 7, which is Satan being loosed, has actually already occurred, and that it was either the fall of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806 or related to the revolutions around that period. And so right now we live in the period where the nations are being deceived, and so we're actually closer to the end than maybe some would suggest. I don't tend to believe that interpretation, because I think that every generation tends to immanentize the eschaton. They tend to think that the end is nearer than it actually is, because they think that they're the main characters of history. So it's sort of, you gotta push it. I think that you kind of have to psychologically push against that impulse. But needless to say, what I'm saying is that there's essentially three major prophecies in the Bibles about the end times. There's obviously Daniel with the statue and the rock, there's the Olivet Discourse, and there's Revelation. And all of those are fulfilled, assuming you present that 70 AD and take like the partial preterist position. All right, Halo time, and then we're done. It's getting late. There's gonna be fireworks soon. See, this is the benefit of being on the Pacific time. You guys, it's all late for you. Your fireworks are over, whereas my getting wasted on 4th of July is only just beginning. Although I did do this, I felt like I needed to do this stream sober, so. And I did all the streams sober until April, basically. Or not basically, actually, literally. I never drank on stream until we did the ones in April, like with the claw stream and stuff. I'm just starting up Halo, that's what I had the thing up for. For Warthog Run. If I am overly harsh on Jub, like I've said it before, I don't hate him and I don't like wish bad for him or anything. There's a reason why I kind of talked about the things I did and didn't talk about the things I didn't talk about. So maybe I am being a little harsh and he is, quote, just matriarchal, but I feel like some other people are overly charitable. So, maybe it all balances out, right? Well, Kildare, there's a certain class of people whose opinion is basically that the best streamer was the last guy to retire. Like, you see these guys who will shit on, like, new streamers and then talk about Godwinson or whatever, and, I wasn't like I didn't stream or anything, but I watched the Godwin streams live, and those same people who would say that were shitting all over Godwinson at the time. And I get it, it's just like shit posting in chat or whatever, but I just find it funny because it means that I don't take like some of the opinions on in that direction very seriously.
Even in death, your sergeant likes it.
Yeah, obviously, it's because you miss Aloy. That's what I just said. I said I know it's like shit posting, so it's that's the whole idea.
We still have a chance.
It's just funny.
Find the doorway in the cliffs, Chief. The dawn is on the other side.
There was like a really good run. I don't know off the top of my head what the years they were. Maybe it was like 2022, 2021 to 2022, where Godwinson had like a bunch of streams in a row that were really good. Honestly, what I miss is the golden fucking guns. The golden guns made me laugh more than I think anything else that's come out of the sector. Just the award, like the award names and like the gimmicks and stuff were so funny to me. I've been trying to like put together a new awards list so that we can maybe like me and Mr. K can do our own thing. But always something comes up, either we have to cover, like, or not have to, but we decide to do something else, or then something like this happens. Where now, like, I don't even know if Mr. K is going to come back or if he's really that interested in doing something like that. So I'd have to find someone else to do it with. But I made like a whole list of possible hypothetical awards, like joke awards. Like healthiest formerly dying man. Yeah, rip Ocean Harrison. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, Shrex. No, I played the music for that one of these streams once.
There, Johnson's Warthog. Come on, Spartan, go, go, go!
I guess it depends on when you cut it off as far as him being overrated. You can actually find some old posts of me. I was actually pretty active in this thread back when I was watching him before I streamed. And I kind of but commented on his downfall. I was the one who originally posted the Ketwitson, Abortwitson, Simpwinson. I posted basically a Godwinson is four things whole thing. That's like Ketwinson, Abortwinson, Simpwinson, and I forget what the last one was. And this was in like after the Elaine stream where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? I'm not in my 30s. That's what I don't get, how everyone is so old. Yeah, the Antediluvian Kings arc was Kina. Remember the We Three Kings one where it was Ralph and Aesilieri? That was funny. Yes, well, I had the benefit of following Gamergate and shit when I was like literally, when I was way too young to be looking at that stuff. Oh, well, not really. I mean, nothing was that bad back then. Other than the general idea of having sex with journalists, I guess. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, apparently Shrek Snow is Dark Ninja. That was in this whole thing as well, I forgot. Brian said that in his timeline of events. Shout out to Brian, honestly his timeline was very helpful. Even the parts that were kind of retarded, like him saying I was part of the Burst of Basity Network, other stuff in there was very key to understanding along this. No! No!
Chief.
Summarize the stream point. Everybody's guilty of something. When one guy makes the mistake of letting a known PDF in his server, don't give him a chance to do it again. Make the same mistake. Also, I think the Norwegian should have gotten more coverage. Or not should have gotten more coverage, but deserves to be acknowledged as being the worst, if not one of the worst people in the whole story.
70%.
Oh yes, and also Brian has showed no signs of being a PDF. But by his deranged, schizophrenic reaction to all of this, people were happy to cover him more than people who were way worse.
80% charged.
What is chat guilty of? Chat's never guilty of anything. Because the only harm chat can do is the harm that the streamer lets them do by listening to them too much when their interests do not align. No, I actually think he did the right thing by deleting everything. Like, you're either in or you're out. You either come out and you defend yourself and explain everything, or you just log off. Him DFing, assuming it sticks, means that he is 100 times smarter than Brian ever was. Because Brian's only even in this conversation because he refuses to ever just DFE and go away. But it might not stick, so maybe he'll try to come back. If he does, I won't be there. I won't shit on him, I won't cover him, but I just won't be there. Am I a Stargate fan? So, when I was a kid, I was a Star Trek fan, and my friend was a Stargate fan. I used to always... Oh, shit. Haven't done that in a while. Missed the jump. And my friend was a Stargate fan, and I really liked trolling him. So I'd always say that Stargate was the redheaded stepchild of sci-fi. And because of that, I would always refuse to watch it. But then years later, when we were adults, I did watch some of it with him, and it is pretty good. It's good in a different way. I do have, like, appreciation for it now. But I had to stick with my troll for at least 10 years of refusing to watch it because it wasn't real sci-fi.
90%.
I know, I wish I could play it with the controller, but I forgot to bring my controller to this spot. I think it's funny, you can tell I'm not using one. I don't like using the controller in most of the game, but for the Warthog it is better to use a controller.
Got it, Chief! Jump! Floor it! Right into the hangar!
Jim stream today? What was it even about? Did he talk about anything? I totally forgot about that.
Chief!
Yeah, that is the problem, is he's younger than Venti, and he just... There's only specific circumstances where you really should get with an older woman. Alright, I'll probably do the religious sphere stuff tomorrow, guys. I had most of it pulled up yesterday. We'll do Sam versus Thad. We'll do the Ortho Bros stuff. We might do one of the Andrew Wilson versus David Wood debates. I want to see whether David managed to lose to a statutory rapist. We'll see. Well, not we'll see. That's what I'm going to do. And then I have Monday and Tuesday left to stream. A-logging Popovich. I mean, I posted those clips of him going crazy when they happened. I haven't really watched anything since then, though, so I don't know. Is this from 2? No, this is 3. What I used to do was always play the Warthog Run soundtrack at the end of the streams, and then I figured, well, why not just actually play the level? Is there going to be a Shia Islam presentation? Bro, talk to him. Talk to the guy. You know who I'm talking about. Because he keeps giving me contradictory dates on that. I'd like to do a Shia stream on all the schizophrenia of Shia Islam. There might be another streaming window at some point coming up here, because there might be some beach house shenanigans. We'll see. It's over!